Welcome, students. So, I'm giving you this lecture because we have really little time left. I want to finish off this novel completely. That is, in the course of these few extra lectures, I will be discussing the various themes and important topics of the novel. So you better watch these lectures and keep yourself up to date. During the classes, I will be reading the text and, of course, discussing a bit together with it. So let's begin. So, now what is this novel primarily or novella primarily about? So we have a few major characters. There are many characters in the novel. We have a few major characters. So in the novel, we have a man of Arab descent, that is, of Arab descent. His ancestors, they migrated to this area of the world, Colombia, in the previous years, in the previous decades. And so this character is of Arab descent. The character of Santiago Nassar. Now this character, Santiago Nassar, he gets murdered by two men or by two brothers, Pedro Vicario and Pablo Vicario. And why do they murder Santiago Nassar? Because they have a sister named Angela Vicario, who had just been married to another character named Bayardo San Roman. So Santiago Nassar gets murdered by the Vicario brothers because of their sister who was married to Bayardo San Roman. So why was Nassar murdered actually? Because the brothers, when Bayardo San Roman marries Angelo Vicario, when he marries her, he finds on their wedding night, he finds that Angela Vicario is not a virgin. And so Bayardo San Roman returns Angela Vicario to her father's family. And the brothers then believe that Santiago Nassar is the culprit, that is, he is the one who had premarital or outside of marriage relations with their sister, and that is why the sister's marriage got broken and she got returned to her father's home. And so the brothers, as a revenge, they murder Santiago Nassar. And as I have mentioned earlier, that this incident was based on true events. So Santiago Nassar was really, in real life, that is, the character was based on this person in real life, is Caetano Gentile Chimento. And so this was the real life scenario, that is, Santiago Nassar's character was based on Caetano Gentile Chimento. The brothers, their characters, they were based on the real life person, Victor Chica Salas, who really murdered Caetano Chimento, because his sister Margarita Chica Salas was returned home on the wedding night by her husband, the real life Miguel Reyes Valencia. So what is happening in this entire structure that you see in front of you? There is this person of Arab descent, clearly a minority, who is blamed. If you have read the novel, or when you will read, you will find that there is no real proof, there is no evidence that proves indeed Santiago Nasar was the culprit, that whether or not he deserved this fateful incident, whether or not he deserved death. So because he is of an Arab descent, a minority within the community of, we do not know the name of the town, but the real life town was Sucre. This was the real life town, but in the novel Marquez never mentions the name of the town. So it is a small town, and a minority in the community of this very small town, of course, is dealt with partiality, bias, and certain kinds of prejudices. They are always seen outside of the community, primarily because they it is believed that they are not of this land, of the Colombian land, of the American land, because they had migrated to this land from outside. So even though they have been living here for generations, we know that Santiago Nasar's father was also living here. So even though they have lived here for generations, yet they are still considered to be outsiders. And as outsiders, they are really easy to blame, because nobody really verifies whether or not they have really committed the crime, because nobody cares about the reality. They just want their prejudice to be proved. So in this community also, Santiago Nasar is the target of the community over here. And the other aspect of this entire structure that you see is that the Vicario brothers, why are they murdering Nasar? Why are they committing this crime? Because their sister was returned home on the wedding night. The sister was found not virgin. She was found not virgin, which inevitably proved that she had premarital sexual relationships, that she had premarital affairs, and that is why she was not a virgin. So the virginity that had been deprived, that had been destroyed, allegedly, without any proof, that is, so the virginity of Angela Vicario, which had apparently been destroyed by Santiago Nasar, the Vicario brothers are punishing this act. They are punishing the destruction, or the, how should I put it, the Vicario brothers, they are punishing Nasar because they broke the ritual of virginity being something that is only revealed in the wedding night. But if you have, since Angela Vicario has already revealed her virginity to Santiago Nasar, apparently there is no proof again. So because she has already revealed her virginity to Santiago Nasar without wedding, before marriage, Nasar is seen as a criminal who steals, or who destroys virginity. And why is this such a big incident? Because a virginity is also the symbol of status, symbol of respect for a family, as is the case still now. So this is what the men, the Vicario brothers, they take up as a project of their own. That is, they need to protect the respect, the family honor, which has apparently been destroyed because Santiago Nasar lured Angela Vicario into bed before marriage or without any marital relationships. In this structure, we also find that the character of Bayardo San Roman, he is also basically similar to the Vicario brothers. He returns the wife on the wedding night itself because she is not a virgin. A similar rule does not apply to him. A similar rule does not even apply to Santiago Nasar. We will see in the novel that Nasar is also a very promiscuous character. He is really very much insolent and disrespectful towards women. So Bayardo Nasar, Santiago Nasar is of Arab descent, and he is not he does not belong to the elite class, to the upper class of the society. So Bayardo San Roman, by returning Angela Vicario, his wife, on the night of the wedding itself, is also showing disrespect towards women. But he is rich, he belongs to the upper class of the community. So therefore, those traits of him do not matter. What matters is that he wants a strong code of family honor, which is apparently blackened, which is apparently disrespected when the wife turns out to be not virgin on the wedding night. So he thinks that it is his right, that it is his rightful place to return this woman to her father's family, because this was a very common scenario, a very common ritual within the community of that point of time. So therefore, the first thing that we are going to discuss is this structure, the structure of honor, the structure of family, of respect, the structure of vengeance as restoration of respect. Of course, the Vicario brothers kill Santiago Nassar because they believe that this is the correct way to be, that by doing this, their family will be avenged, their code of, or the family's honor, the family's name will be protected, it will be avenged. And of course, the community. All of these 4 points being intricately and inevitably linked to the woman. It is the woman who represents honor, family, respect, and also the community. It is only when the woman's virginity is attacked, and that too by a minority person, a person belonging to the minority group, a person not as rich as Bayardo San Roman, someone who is considered to be a person who is considered to be outsider. So her revealing the fact that Nassar stole the virginity of Angela Vicario, apparently, again because no proof exists, it is only because her virginity is stolen, it is only because she is returned to her father's place, because Bayardo San Roman considers an unvirgin, a non-virgin bride to be disrespectful to his family's name. So he returns as his right, as he thinks is his right, returns the bride to her father's family. And the men of the father's family, they also decide that they will protect the family code of honor and respect by avenging Santiago Nassar. So this also, we will also then discuss about something about religion over here. This structure also implies certain religious aspects. Community, also, of course, it also symbolizes certain racist aspects, that is communalism, Santiago Nassar belonging to a different race altogether. So this is the first point of the novel which we will be discussing, a very important and the core sense of the novel, because it is exactly this false code of honor and respect that Marquez tries to attack in this novel, by he was also attacking in context by making General Petronio San Roman, that is another character and is father of Bayardo San Roman. So by making the father a conservative. The conservatives the political group or the political ideology, the political idea which Marquez was completely against. He belonged to the, more or less supported the liberal ideas of politics, the liberal political ideology. So by making the father of the groom a conservative, who is also, this family is also, it's stated in the novel that they are the richest in the community, they are the richest in the entire town. So by making this super rich father, he's also by making a conservative of, by stating that the father of the groom, someone believes that their family honor is blackened or tainted because the wife turns out to be not virgin on the wedding night, and somebody who believes that it is his right and also very much a duty to return the bride to the father's place on the night of the wedding itself. So by making somebody like him having a conservative father, Marquez has already located this family's context into a space, into a political space against which he himself, as an author, as a literary activist, was also against. He was also against this, the political ideology of the conservatives. So this is by throwing into the light this very hypocritical stance of family honor being invested upon the virginity of a woman, and according to which even murder is correct, even murder is moral, is a moral side to take, is the committing a crime is the moral thing to do, is the correct thing to do. So by making the originator of this, of the events, by someone, a conservative upper class Colombian, thinking that it is right to kill a minority, to kill a person who also happens to be outsider of the community, who also happens to have an Arab descent. And there were many incidents in history when so many atrocities had been committed against Arab people. Even Marquez once himself was arrested once. He was arrested once because the police thought that he was an Arab. He looked like that. So the police thought that he was an Arab, and he was just standing on the curb on the road, and they just picked him up and arrested him for looking like an Arab. So much hatred existed for the outsiders, for the diaspora, or for as we have seen, while we were learning, while we were studying the Final Solution. So they were also a diasporic community in Colombia. So by making an upper class person legitimizing this murderous act, Gabriel Marquez is definitely making a statement over here. He is definitely attacking the conservative ideology of so-called family honor, which fundamentally destroys the community. It destroys womanhood, it destroys community, it destroys brotherhood, fraternity as well. So let us see how this unfolds. So what does this community mean then? As you can see on the screen, I have drawn out a chart for you. So community, the word community comes from the Latin combination of the words com and unus, which means with or together, and or singular. So we now have an idea of what community means. That is a singular idea of togetherness. That is a community. Togetherness, of course, composed of various people. A community can also be defined by a set of persons who have beliefs and values in common. Similarly, we also find in the chronicles, in the novella, The Chronicles of a Death Foretold, that people are united around the belief, around the common belief of the cult of virginity. I have written down the name of the person who has given this statement, so you should not write it down as your own. And we find, therefore, we also find in the sense of community in the novella then, because they are all united around a singular idea. these people, they are united around a singular belief, a singular idea. They have this common faith in the cult of virginity. And Habermas, Jürgen Habermas, he also says in his book, The Inclusion of the Other, he affirms that communities are governed by certain moral rules. So a community, the sense of a community also emerges when you are governed, when a group of people are governed by certain moral rules. And that the morality of the community not only lays down how its members should act, it also provides grounds for the consensual resolution of relevant conflicts. So since a community is also asserted, the sense of a community is also asserted when it has certain common moral rules. Habermas also says that the morality of a community, of course, lays down the regulations or the rules according to which the people in it, the members of the community, should act. And these set of moral rules are also applicable when there are certain conflicts or there are certain differences within the community, within the members, between the members of the community. And these moral rules, they act as a guidance for the solving of these conflicts, for the resolution of these conflicts. And so we see in the novella, this is what exactly that happens in Marquez's fictional community. We do not know the name. Retribution, that is resolution, as Habermas is saying, that happens in a community. These retribution or resolution, it comes and it is also wanted for. The Vicario brothers, as we saw in the last in the last few minutes, the Vicario brothers, they had to restore. They thought that it was an imperative that they had to restore their sister's honor and prove their own manhood by murdering Santiago Nassar, who is Angela's alleged or accused deflowerer, that is, someone who has taken away her virginity. He's accused of it. There is no proof. And while the community members, they do not always want to follow this culture of virginity, to follow this idea of virginity to be a very important aspect of life, the cult of virginity, even though the community members do not always support this idea in private, in public they never fail to support it, because that is how they keep up or maintain the sense of community. Even in the novel, from Angela's friends, we learn that women were able to hide the fact that they were not virgin by getting their husbands drunk on the wedding night, and by using mercurochrome, that is যেটাকে আমরা বাংলায় লাল ওষুধ বলি, mercurochrome. So the women used to use the mercurochrome and smear it and spread it on the sheet, so that the husband, and also get their husbands very, very drunk, so that they would think that it is the wife's blood, basically, which proves that she is a virgin. So and Angela's friends themselves, they did this. They have covered up the fact that they were also not virgins when they were being married, when they were married, and they had had premarital affairs and sexual relationships, and they knew that this sort of a thing would happen, that they also would be returned to their father's home, and there also would continue a cycle of revenge, where the male members of Angela's friends' family would avenge the so-called deflowerer of the friends, of the women of the family. So what do these friends do? What do Angela's friends do? Instead, they fake it. They fake their virginity. They get their husbands really drunk and use mercurochrome, and that is why they hide the fact. That is how they hide the fact that they are not virgins. Similarly, the twins, that is Angela's the friends, they are the twins, that is Angela's sisters. She has twin sisters. The twins are very reluctant. They do not want this revenge to be committed, but all of their efforts, they go in vain. Nobody listens to them. Their efforts fail eventually. So in public, therefore in public, everyone feels obligated or felt obligated in the novella to act accordingly with the customs of the community. This community which holds high the idea of virginity. A community also asserts its collective identity, the fact that they share a common belief and a common faith and follow the cult of virginity alike, it gives them a collective identity, not individual identity, because the individuals, they do not assert their individual views of virginity and how they choose to hide it and neglect it, how the men are hypocritical about it. They do not individually assert their beliefs, because their individual belief do not matter. The sense of the community matters much more. It is much more important. Therefore, a community has collective identity, which is asserted, which is reasserted when something harms this collective identity, such as the faith in honor, in family's name, in virginity. When someone harms this, an outsider, a so-called apparent outsider of a diasporic community, harms this identity, tries to harm this identity, the community renews itself symbolically by killing, by removing the harm from its identity, by killing or murdering Santiago Nazar. And these elements of collective identity, they are seen throughout the wedding celebration of Angela Vicario and Bayardo San Roman. How the town prepares for the bishop's arrival, one another very important theme which we will discuss. The burden of Santiago's murder, that is also shared collectively, such that it is how do we know that? Such that when after Santiago's murder, after the event, the entire town, the narrator says, that is, the entire town has cried out after the event, frightened by its own crime, by its own crime. The crime committed by the entire community, because everyone knew that Santiago Nazar was about to be murdered. Almost everyone. A few, including Santiago himself and his mother, they did not know that he was about to be murdered. Otherwise, each and every one of the community, almost each and every one knew that Santiago was about to be murdered. Yet, no one really did anything about it. Nobody prevented it. And so they blamed it, or they ascribed the murder to fate. And after the fateful event of the murder, the community was frightened by its own crime, because even though only 2 people really committed the murder, the entire community was complicit in it. It did not do anything to change the fact, to intervene within the event. It is because they shared the common belief of family honor and the culture of virginity. That is something that preserves family honor and respect. The after effects of Santiago's death, they are widespread. We know within the novel, various characters such as Don Rogelio de la Flor dies after witnessing the murder. Other characters such as Hortensia Baute runs out naked into the street upon seeing the murder weapons. Not only do the narrator and the twins smell of Santiago, everything smells of Santiago, the narrator writes. Pedro Vicario, one of the murdering brother, he has urination problem, while Pablo Vicario develops a severe case of diarrhea. And in these ways, these are very little comic elements within the novel, and in these ways Marquez mimics or copies, basically he ironically copies the events that occurred after the death of Christ, which led a character in the Bible to proclaim, to say that surely he, that is Christ, was the Son of God. Where is this written? It's written in the Gospel of Matthew. If you want to figure it, sorry, I'll just correct it. If you want to read the passage for yourself, you can find it in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 27, verses 50 to 54. So, after seeing the
witnessing the after effects of Christ's death, when judgment came upon earth, a character in the Bible, a centurion, it says that surely he was the Son of God, because I can see the after effects, such dreadful after effects. So he had to be the Son of God, otherwise his murder, his torture, his killing would not have brought down certain these judgments to us. Similarly, Santiago's murder also brings about certain after effects, which tilts, which channels our thought to a same thing, to a similar thing, and we think that Santiago was indeed, maybe he had been innocent, and maybe he was murdered without any reason. Not that honor killing is a good thing in itself, but he was murdered without any reason whatsoever. So, and the after effects are not like the judgment days that earth or that the world saw after the death of the Christ, but some characters in the novella having diarrhea, having urination problems, someone running naked, someone's death. Yes. So these are all very mimicking elements. Garcia is ironical in this way, by showing that a town that is hysterically preparing for the arrival of a bishop, a representative of religion, a representative of Christ as well, that town is itself witnessing certain after effects of the murder of an innocent man, but in a very comical and and very little, in very petty ways. That is how Garcia mocks the community. That is how Garcia mocks the decadence of values, and how human values have deteriorated through the ages. That is how he mocks it in a certain fashion. And so this is how the entire community, it asserts its collective identity, basically by denying that they also had a role in this murder, by attributing this murder to fate, because even they knew that all of them knew about the murder prior to the incident, yet somehow they failed to inform the uh, the person, Santiago Nassar. So they inevitably blame it on fate, or something over which they had no control. It had to happen, so it happened, thereby legitimizing or normalizing honor killing as something that is all right. So this fate then also plays a very important role in the novel. Marquez then also explores the theme of fate and its power over the community. I'm sorry. Fate and its power over the community. Marquez begins by reversing, by completely inverting the biblical scenario, something that happened, an event that happened in the Bible, where of course the birth of, the birth of Christ was foretold. Yes, there was a prophet. The prophet, he foretold that the Son of God will be born in the village to the Virgin Mary and the husband and the family, that is, he will be born in the sheep rearing family. It was foretold. The birth of Christ was foretold. And Christ was aware of his coming death and his purpose. Yes, Christ was completely aware of the fact that he was going to be tortured and killed, and then he would be reborn. He also knew what his purpose was. He also knew the role that he had to play in this world. And the Bible, the Old and the New Testaments, have obviously reasserted this. So this situation is somewhat reversed by Marquez while he tries to prove the role of fate over its community. The same cannot be told about Santiago Nassar. The death of Santiago Nassar was foretold. This is both yes and no. Why yes? because the community knew, the entire community know that Nassar was to be murdered soon by the Vicario brothers. But Santiago, Nassar knew nothing. He had no idea. So the death was foretold, but not for the subject of this death, not for the person who was actually about to be murdered, like Christ, who knew that he was about to be killed. And therefore, this creates a bit of a confusion. Uh, you know, just relate it, try to relate it, imagine the situation to yourselves, that you and your entire family maybe know about something, about someone, something that is going to happen to someone, and somehow you people, all of you, fail to inform that someone, and that someone eventually suffers the fate of that event, in spite of the fact that all of the people surrounding him knew that something was going to happen. So of course all of you will say that it is fate that made it happen, and therefore we had no control over it. So Marquez then shows that fate had a very strong hold over the community. And there are various direct references to the power of fate as well within the novel. There are various people, as I have said repeatedly, that they knew about the incident that was about to happen, and characters like Father Amador and Colonel Aponte, both of them, they are very much busy with the event of the bishop coming to the community, and they forget to inform Santiago. And the entire public who witnesses the murder does not intervene within the murder, within the incident. They do not do anything to stop the incident from happening. The maids who work at Santiago's home, they also refuse to tell him anything about the impending plot to murder him, because we will discuss this further while we read the novel. We will get to see why they really do not they do not inform, the maids do not inform Santiago. We will see why. It is simply because Santiago Nassar is a womanizer, and he is disrespectful towards women. He touches the maid's daughter whenever he can, without paying any respect to her womanhood. And both of these women are there very much angry over Santiago Nassar, who goes unchecked and really claims his manhood to be situated in the fact that he can rightfully, he has the right, or odhikar ache, he has the right to misbehave with women. So they do not inform Santiago. Santiago is separated from a friend called Cristo Bedoya, and who could not, even though he knew about this murder that was about to happen, he could not find Santiago so that he could inform him. And the narrator who is narrating the incidents of the novel, he claims, who thinks about, who ponders about, who reflects upon so many failed attempts, so many people who knew about the murder yet failed to inform Santiago. So the narrator comments that no one could understand such fatal coincidences, and also says there had never been a death more foretold. So there had never been so many signs of a murder about to happen, and so many people knew, yet the death did happen. So he says that there had never been a death more foretold. And most importantly, Santiago himself had the opportunity to save himself, when another character called Nahir Miguel within the novel, he informs Santiago about the murder plot, and Santiago says that I don't understand a goddamn thing, and he leaves the house in spite of the warning. Santiago refuses both options and walks to death. Even though Miguel offers him a hiding place, Santiago does not accept the offer, and he walks to his own death, therefore facing the fateful incident. And considering the fact that we will see, as we keep on discussing, that there are so many comparisons made that can be made to Santiago and Jesus Christ. One such comparison we already saw. Considering the fact that there are so many allusions to Christ about Santiago Nasar, it is not a surprise that Santiago refused to defend himself, very much like Christ. He refused to call for angels' help, which he could, being the Son of God. And so, similarly, Santiago Nasar also does not accept the help of Nahir Miguel, who comes as an angel to stop his death, to protect him. And all of this point us to the inevitability of Santiago's death, the fact that Santiago's মৃত্যুটা বা ওর মার্ডারটা যে অনিবার্য ছিল, it was inevitable. All of these incidents, they plot up, they point us to the fatality of the incident, that it was very much written, it was very much fateful without anyone's control over it. Also, what is noticeable is that the reference in the title, the title having the word chronicle in it, is ironic, because the reader expects to find a series of factual events recorded in a chronological order. That is what a chronicle is. But we do not find that in the novel. From the first line of the novel, we are already informed that Santiago is going to be killed on that day. By the end of the first chapter, we know that he has been killed. So instead of a chronicle, we find that the novel is rather a series of events, it's rather a series of testimonies and witnesses, evidences, so not evidences, narrative evidences, and the narrator's personal opinions about Santiago's murder, presented in a very unsystematic way, not at all a chronicle. More importantly, this also brings us to the idea of the community. More importantly, the novel is a community's collective record of a traumatic event that they witness. The entire community recollects what has happened 8 to 10 years ago, as the narrator revisits the place, revisits the town, and tries to revisit his memories as well. So memory is also a very important theme in the novel, which we will discuss later on. So I will just pan through the entire board and let you see whatever we have discussed up till now. So this is what we have discussed up till now. Now let us talk a bit about Santiago Nasar, the murdered and also the accused. So Santiago Nasar here then stands as a social deviant. Why deviant? A deviant is someone who does not follow the rules. So Santiago Nasar here in this community does not follow the communal rules surrounding or centering the cult of virginity. He does not support the code of family honor according to the Vicario brothers, according to Bayardo San Roman, and therefore he is murdered. He is rightfully and dutifully murdered. So he is portrayed as a handsome man a man of his word, and with a fortune of his own at the age of 21. Something that I quoted it from the text. So he has a very open-hearted nature. The majority of the townspeople believe his innocence, we learn from the novel, including the judge who tries the Vicario brothers, Angela Vicario's friends, Santiago's closest friends, and the narrator. All of these people, they find or they believe that Santiago was indeed innocent. Nonetheless, he is sacrificed. He's sacrificed. Why? This is a quote from the text: to expiate the insult. Expiate means to cleanse of guilt, that is to purge. The insult, of course, was deflowering Angela, who is a symbol of family honor, who represents family honor, which of course is a property of males or the patriarchs. So the honor is the property of the patriarch, and it is represented by Angela's virginity particularly, and the fact that she was deflowered premaritally. That fact is a guilty fact, and it needs to be cleansed, which actually culminates into the murder. The lack of evidence against Santiago as a perpetrator, as someone who has committed a crime, someone who is really guilty, the fact that there are no evidences for this fact, it makes him a victim of circumstance or a scapegoat. So instead of being a sacrificial lamb like Christ was, someone who was sacrificed for the sins of men, he becomes a scapegoat. Scapegoat meaning that he is punished for the errors of other people, the error that the community commits at large by investing in this fact, by believing in this fact that a woman can represent honor, that too something that she has no control over, but is controlled, and a concept of honor entirely controlled and regulated by the male members of the family, the patriarchs of the society, of the community. So the errors of the community are basically cleansed, they are purged through the murder of Santiago Nassar. And the lack of evidence against him, it actually makes him a victim of circumstance or a scapegoat. But his death is necessary to preserve the social order in the community. The fact that he defied the social orders, he defied this idea, he had to be removed off the community. It was necessary to preserve the social order. That I said a few minutes before, that a community renews itself by symbolic activities. It renews its idea of collective identity by symbolic renewal. So this is the renewal, symbolic of the biblical story of Christ, also symbolic of the larger hypocrisy of the communal idea, the larger hypocrisy of patriarchal ideals of honor, family, code, and womanhood, and so on and so forth. And if we analyze the name of Santiago Nassar, let's see what we get. Let us analyze the name of Nassar. Arnold M. Penuel, in an essay called The Sleep of Vital Reason in Garcia Marquez's Crónica de una muerte anunciada, or The Chronicles of a Dead Foretold, Penuel says he draws many parallels between Christ and Santiago Nassar. He suggests that there is a parallel between the name Nassar and Nazareno. Nassar, Nazareno. Nazareno refers, of course, to Nazareth, where Jesus was born. So Penuel suggests there is a parallel between the name Nassar and Nazareno, and the brutal way they both die by public execution. Both Christ and Santiago Nassar, they die by public execution. When Santiago's body is taken for autopsy, for post-mortem that is, the autopsy report says that he has a deep stab in the right hand. Which looks like the stigma or the pain that is stigma of crucified Christ. This is what the autopsy report says. And shortly before Santiago Nassar's death, Cristo Bedoya, before Santiago Nassar's death, his friend Cristo Bedoya, this also bears the name to Christ, similarity to the name of Christ, suggests that Santiago will be sacrificed in a Christ-like manner. Another allusion to Christ is seen in the outfit, the dress that Santiago wears. So there are these few similarities you will find in a material which I will send to you. I will just discuss the major ones. Another similarity between Santiago and Christ is found in the purpose of their death. Why are they killed? So when the Pharisees, they were basically priests of Jerusalem, and they believed that the only way to worship God or reach God was to follow the law that they had written, the law that was the collective law for the entire community. And Jesus Christ came and defied all of these laws. He said that the way to reach God was through love and benevolence and kindness to your neighbors. And therefore the Pharisees and the other priests of the churches in Jerusalem, they never accepted Christ as the Son of God. They said that he was an impostor. They hated Jews, and therefore they plotted to kill him. So when the Pharisees and the chief priests, so you can already see the similarities. Here we have Santiago Nassar also defying the law of the land over here, and we have certain guardians of the communities, the Vicario brothers being the representatives of those guardians of the community, who plot and eventually kill the defiant, that is Santiago Nassar. So when the Pharisees and the chief priests were plotting to kill Christ, they thought it was better that one man die for the people than that the whole nation perish. So this is written in the Gospel of John, chapter 11, verse 50. If you want to find it out in the Bible. So similarly, it seems better for Santiago to die than for the sense of the community to fail. So Santiago's death was the better option than by allowing the community to fail, by allowing a defiant to live through even after he has gone against the law of the community, that is, he has disrespected the virginity of Angela Vicario, thereby disrespecting the family honor. So that the community does not disintegrate, so that the social fabric, that is the line of belief, the threads of belief that bind the individual members of the community together, so that that fabric does not break and tear apart, it is necessary for Santiago to die. If he is allowed to live, the fact, there will be a constant reminder that the social fabric is broken. So therefore he needs to go away. He therefore becomes a protector of the community, because it is only if he dies then the sense of community identity can be preserved. So in that sense, Santiago is also the protector of the community. But if Santiago is indeed the sacrificial lamb, then why did I say that he is also a scapegoat? Because they are both very antithetical ideas. They are very opposite ideas. A sacrificial lamb is a phrase that was attributed to Jesus, someone who was full of goodness, and he was sacrificed so so that he could absorb the sins of the world, the sins of human beings. But a scapegoat is someone who is wrongfully accused of for the errors of others. It is a very negative connotation. So, how is Santiago both a sacrificial lamb and a scapegoat? This maybe happens because he is both the sacrificial lamb and the scapegoat is maybe because of the fact that the community it views Santiago as an outsider. He is the only child of an Arab father. Santiago has an Arab father and a Hispanic mother. That is Spanish origins. So indigenous. So there is no problem on his mother's side. It is the father's side that is the problem. So and unlike the youth of his generation, unlike other people of his own generation, of his own age, who understand Arabic but only speak in Spanish, Santiago Nasar, on the other hand, he embraces his Turkish backgrounds and he speaks Arabic, his father's tongue. His first name Santiago, this is the first name, that is his whole name is Santiago Nasar. So this first name, his first name, refers to the patron saint of Spain, the saint that the community of Spain observes and worships. And his last name, that is Nasar, it has Arabic or Moorish origins. Arabic or Moorish origins. Therefore, this name, Santiago and Nasar, both implicating the patron saint of Spain and the Arabic and Moorish origins, they make Santiago Nasar, or the person, as a representative. If we add of both of these things, they make him a representative of coexistence, that both of these religious backgrounds, both of these communal backgrounds, geographical backgrounds, social backgrounds, they can coexist together as it does within the person of Santiago Nasar. But uneasy tension between the Hispanics and the Arabs in the town, they are also presented within this person. So Santiago Nasar's person, his own body, it becomes a test, it becomes a site, it becomes a space for both coexistence and conflicts, coexistence of both Spanish cultural, Hispanic cultural, social and religious origins, and also Arabic or Moorish cultural, social and historical origins. And although the Arabs, they have lived in this town, as we will see in the novel, the Arabs have lived in this town for 3 generations, and they are described by the people as a community of peace-loving immigrants. So the Arabs are described as a community of peace-loving immigrants. Even though the Arabs are described as such, they are still regarded, they are still thought of as outsiders. Why? Because they adhere, or they still follow their own customs, their own food habits and their language. We can make many similarities pertaining to other religions in our present context as well, in our contemporary times as well. So even though the Arabs are considered to be a group of peace-loving immigrants, they are considered to be outsiders and aliens to the Hispanic community, to the majorly Hispanic community, because the Arabs, they adhere, or they still are attached to their old customs, very much like Santiago Nasar, who still adheres to his own add a big tongue to his own father's tongue and not the mother tongue, which is very much opposite to communal ideals, collective ideals. Even when we talk about national ideal, this is something that is very much uncalled for or looked down upon when you do not speak your mother tongue. So here he speaks the father tongue, he carries the customs of his religion, and he adheres to his own traditions. And therefore, even after being a peace loving group of immigrants, Santiago Nassar is considered to be an outsider. The community's prejudice towards or resentment or dislike towards Santiago Nassar is expressed in the statement that he, in the novel we find it written that he, meaning Nassar, of course, he thought that his money made him untouchable, just like all Turks. So of course a communal bias and prejudice that we witness over here. Through this statement we can get an idea of the community's hatred or dislike towards him. The sense that money made the rich invincible, it is also repeated again, when another character called named Don Rogelio de la Flor, who claims that the brothers, that is the Vicario brothers, they cannot kill anybody like Santiago, especially someone who is rich. So they cannot kill someone like Santiago who is a rich person. So the idea that money brings untouchability, that money made the rich invincible, this is also confirmed by both of these statements. And that is why we have a critic called Mino Susan Koshi. She says that in her work Shards of a Gruesome Memory Commemorated, she says that in this novel then Santiago Nassar, he represents the bourgeoisie and its excesses. The bourgeoisie class, the upper middle class, or the upper middle class that is characterized by an excessive show of its possessions, very much like ourselves. The middle class, it is characterized by excess, that is we spend more than we earn, thereby we never cross over our own class because we do not know how to save, invest and grow our assets. So we believe in excessive showing off of our possessions, the middle class or the bourgeoisie. So Koshi says, Minu Susan Koshi says that Santiago Nassar represents the bourgeoisie and its excesses, while the Vicario brothers they represent the proletariat, who is fed up with the disparity or inequality. The repercussions which the Vicario brothers as a family they face when their sister is returned home on the wedding night by the groom, who also happens to be also happens to belong to the richer class, to the upper classes of the society, unlike the vicarios themselves, the repercussions that follow, it means that incident means to them a perfect dishonor of their family's name. And so they sacrifice a representative of this bourgeoisie class in order to break this injustice, in order to break this inequality that existed between the classes. This class struggle in the society is also revealed when Faustino Santos, another character in the novella who is a butcher, he asks Pablo Vicario, and I'm quoting, why they had to kill Santiago Nassar, since there were so many other rich people who deserved dying first. So the rich, they deserve to die, something that is correct according to the poorer sections of the society, the proletariat in this case, the working people in this case. So it seems that Santiago has 2 points against him: his wealth and his Arabic background, his Arabic context, that is. As a rich man, his actions are not harmonious with the community's standards. The rich can do anything, therefore they can break the social honor, and so the people or the Vicario brothers avenge the breaking of the communal idea of honor and family and respect. So a rich is not entitled to everything, and therefore he becomes the subject of this vengeance. And as a person of Arab descent, he is viewed as a part of the Arab community and not the mainstream or the majority or the community of the majority. This is how things act against him. However, there is a big but over here. Although we did study that Santiago's name refers to saints and Christ also, his personality also alludes to Christ's own fate and purpose. While the saints, Christ and Santiago, they were known for their good deeds in service to humankind as well as to a holy and spiritual life, Santiago is quite the opposite. He is portrayed as a happy-go-lucky person who has no qualms, who has no, who has no moral compass and repeatedly abuses women. So this trait, this characteristic, it makes him a plausible culprit. It also gives us the option that Santiago may have done what he is being accused of doing. His surname Nassar, it also means in its Turkish origins, it also means evil eye. It also means evil eye. So his evil eye leads him to violate any virgin who crosses his path, very much like his own father also did, something that we find in the novel. Thus, one interpretation is that Santiago Nassar, a rich and handsome man, abuses young girls or young virgins and has to be punished or stopped by an angel which comes in the form of Angela Vicario. However, we must also remember that the fact he meets a tragic end, it does not just justify his murder, because according to the Aristotelian principles of tragedy, a tragic death does not, a person who dies a tragic death does not always mean that the person is morally accurate, is a superbly moralistic person. That person may be morally reproachful. He may possess traits and characters which are not seen to be good, like Brutus. Brutus was seen to have the sin. He seemed to have the moral defect of over trusting. He also had the moral defect of doubting, which he did. He doubted his king, and he overly trusted the conspirators of Julius Caesar. Like Macbeth, he had the moral flaw of overambition. He wanted to overachieve himself. And so, tragic death does not always mean that a person not it is not always the case that a person who is always morally correct and morally true, only such a person can meet a tragic death. A tragic death can come to a person irrespective of your moral inclinations. So in the next section, in the next video that I'll post, I will continue with this theme. We are discussing a lot of things under this theme. So I will break it into 2 classes, and in the next day, that is, I think most probably tomorrow, I will post another video following this same theme. Thank you very much.